Fuksa. And I try to set up this series so that you guys could meet some other people that are probably doing things that you either want to do, you've maybe realized that you have a struggle and they're going to talk us through some of that kind of stuff, or, the opportunity, as I was talking about earlier, about when you see an opportunity in front of you, taking advantage of it. And some of the concepts are really similar when we talk to different entrepreneurs. And so I just love the opportunity to share all these really strong, powerful people with you that have just learned how to navigate through some of these processes, and just encourage you to reach out and understand that everybody goes through the same kinds of things. So today I have an amazing pleasure to introduce you to a lady who's become a friend, who I met several years ago, who I have so much respect for. I just really can't wait for you guys to hear her story. This is Beth Graeme. Beth, thanks so much for being on with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, Beth is going to tell us a little bit about her story, because Beth has a very unique story in a lot of her history and how she came to be where she is now, and also how she's learned to pivot her business based on as different things change in her business world and that mold of that business. So Beth, tell us about you. Who are you? Where did you come from? What are you doing now? And tell us all about your business.
Well, in 1977, it was a dark and stormy. No, I'm kidding. I would like to say that I am a veteran, and I'm a wife, and I'm the mother of 4 wonderful kids. One is serving in the Army right now over there in Afghanistan. I have a background in technology because when I first graduated school, I went to an executive secretarial school, and that secretarial school molded me and shaped me into learning the basics about business, like economics, financials, accounting, computers. We actually went from typewriters to computers in my course of my training. So after I graduated there, I went into computer world, into .com industry, and I was a help desk analyst, where I was a person that would talk to people through their problems through the computer. So I'm very tech savvy. Then the .com industry kind of went boom, and that was around 2000. And then 9/11 happened, and that October I went into the Navy because it was hard to find work. I had an administrative background, so I wasn't really a skilled worker, right? So I was last hired, first fired whenever there was a layoff. So I needed some stability. So my dad suggested I go into the Navy, and that's what I did. And I was an aviation electronics technician, so I worked on helicopters and the computer systems. I really enjoyed that. I worked my way up to E5. And then while I was on deployment, I sent a movie of me reading A Christmas Story back to my kids, and realized that they were my stepkids. So I realized, like, I need to be at home with them, and I need to be at home if I were to be a mom of my own kids. So I decided to get out of the Navy. And I was a Navy wife because my husband was also in the Navy. So I was a Navy wife for a while. And then when we moved across the country, I started working on base just for a little bit. And then when Noah went to Afghanistan, I was like, I need to do something with my time. I'm like, ugh. And I had been going back to school that whole time for art and for web design and new media, because I wanted to get a degree that had a skilled set, because I learned a long time ago you needed to be a skilled worker. And so I worked on that, and I got more education around art. But I've been using my camera since I was 11. Like, it's always been a passion of mine. And that's how I chose art in my degree plan, because I wanted to do something that I was passionate about, that I could do I would want to wake up in the morning and be okay with going to do whatever it is I was going to do. And then if I wasn't an entrepreneur anymore, I would still love doing it, because it's a passion. You love it, right? So that's why I chose what I do. And I started my business 7 years ago, and I have had a slow climb, because I've always been, most entrepreneurs are risk takers, and I'm not. Calculated choices. I don't like taking a lot of risk. I like to do myself. I'm just not like that. So I've grown very, very slowly, and over time, through being a part of professional organizations that uphold photography to a really high standard, going to conferences, educating myself. I really learned how to mold my business to my views and the way that I see the world, and still uphold the industry at a high standard, and change my business around to become successful. So something I've been able to do for the last 3 years consistently is have a gross volume of over 6 figures for our photography business. And it's hard for some people to say that. And I've really had to get through a lot of inner struggles with pricing, a lot of inner struggles with worth and value to be able to charge a price that would sustain my business. And have a little bit that I could bring home and help pay on some bills, because as your business gets bigger, your expenses get bigger, and you have to learn how to manage that cash flow. And that came from reading some books too. So that's
great. So
that's a then to now.
That's cool. That's cool. So first of all, thank you and your husband very much for what you do, your service, and then being a parent of a child who's in the military. You understand it probably better than most, but it's a really tough service as a parent. So thank you very much to all of you for protecting our country. It's very important. And I think people just don't always take that value as strongly as they need to. But so thank you very much. I love your story in so many different ways, because today I was talking about online before we got on about, when an opportunity arises, just take advantage of it. You don't have to know all the pieces, but you clearly said, that's not me. I can't do it. Right. So, but what I liked is you knew that opportunity, you started playing in it, but you also knew you had to get that information to get down what you needed. And I like hearing that, how, you as an entrepreneur, you always have to continue to keep yourself fresh and educated and reading. And one of the things we talked about offline is some books maybe. And so all of this is kind of the growth as we go along. You don't know it all when you first become an entrepreneur. You may think you got to have yourself set up enough, but you were more calculated and less impulsive about that. So give us a little bit more about that. So you went to some trainings, you realized what was important to you, and then talk to us about continuing to develop that education, if you will.
Well, I think having an understanding of business from the secretarial school that I went to really helped, knowing that there was more than just doing what you do, to be a skilled person. So a lot of entrepreneurs, they start their business and they don't know marketing, they don't know sales, they don't know accounting, they don't know how to communicate, they don't know customer service, they don't know a lot of different areas that make up being a business. So 90% of it is that back end stuff, and 10% of it is the get and do what you really love. So having that understanding was first really paramount, and that got me into a place where I knew enough to get me started, and I didn't feel like I needed to be to go to any other business classes or take any other courses, because I had a kind of a foothold on all of that. But the things that really helped me the most was at the time it was Linda Craven, and she was with the Small Business Development Center, and gives you she gave me free advice. Right now it's Wynn Briscoe. She gives free consultations and free advice to get your business to the next step of where you want to go or where you want to be, or maybe it's an exit plan in 5 years or what have you. But one of the books that I didn't know that they recommend, but they do recommend, is called The E-Myth Revisited. And it is a huge eye opener for the entrepreneur that is the doer. It talks about the doer, the entrepreneur, and the manager. And if you're doing all three of those, you can't effectively manage your business. You can't set up your processes. You can't possibly sell the business. So it was a huge eye opener for me too. So I learned so much from reading that book. But the one book that really, really, really helped is, we as consumers and buyers think about income and expenses. When you own a business, a lot of times you think about income and expenses. So reading the book Profit First was part of a little business book club group for a hot second. That book, even the first few chapters, I don't think I even finished it, because I got so excited about starting it and doing it that I was like, okay, and now I have to go back and reread the second half, because I'm at that point where I'm like, I got it, nail it. So
I love this. I mean, you have so many good pieces here. And one thing I really like about talking to all these entrepreneurs is there's so many similarity themes in it. So first I wanted to run back and say, you mentioned something that people, one of the reasons that we're doing this series, as I said, is to empower other people that may be in similar stages and say, I don't know where to go. I don't know where to ask this information. And the Small Business Administration, a federal agency, has pocket agencies within your community. And the one Beth is talking about is in her community. And in Maryland, it's a Small Business Development Center, but they're all around the country and they're free. Guys, they're free. And they give you information on a lot of things that Beth talked about. So I love that you brought that up, because one of the things that we all forget is, there's so many resources out there, but when you're an entrepreneur and you're starting out, you're afraid, like, oh, I don't want to talk to somebody else. I don't want to share my I don't want to share my good stuff. I don't want to share my, vulnerability. And that's totally the wrong concept. These are some resources that are great, but I also love you sharing these books and these thoughts about, as an entrepreneur, a lot of us, and, we do it for personal reasons, but we also do it because we think we're saving money, and we try to do everything ourselves, when in fact we're doing such a huge disservice, because that's not where our good juju is, right? I mean, it's in whatever you love and you want to do. And so I love that you shared that. That's really good. Because that's so, and then asking for other people mentoring, help, thoughts. I mean, like, here's a perfect example. Somebody else going into a business kind of concept could reach out to you and say, hey, you really like to continue to educate yourself by reading books. Give me some ideas. And I love that you're sharing this, because this is huge. So tell us a little bit more about how you, you had some background in that in that administrative world. So how did you decide that, reading books would continue to help you learn to go in different directions or strengthen the activities you were already doing?
How did reading books strengthen my activities? Well,
did you fall into it? Like, did somebody suggest to you, hey, you should really read this book, and you were like, okay, maybe I'll do that?
Well, I've read a lot of self-help books. I like personal growth books.
Okay.
So when somebody says that this is an amazing book, it's really helping me. The word help was like, oh, maybe it will help me. And be a part of it also, because it was a book club, to be a part of a book club and kind of talking through some of the things that they were learning at the same time. It just seemed like something fun to do. And it actually skyrocketed my husband's sales and understanding of how money should be managed in a business. And a lot of changes have taken place in our lives since reading that book. So
this growth is really cool, because you're continuing to go to conferences, you're reading books, and talk to us a little bit about how that, staying in tune with that kind of thing. A lot of people may not go to a conference because they say, oh gosh, I can't afford to do that. I'd have to fly and do this, do that. But you're recognizing the value in that it brings to your business by continuing to learn. Right. Yeah. So this is what I really like about this, is talk to us about that. I mean, the importance and how that shifted your business around.
Well, it's a little bit of a funny story. My very first conference, my business wasn't doing so well, and I really didn't have the money to go. I had booked it. I'd already paid for the tickets. I just needed travel funds, and I didn't have a roommate, and I had to pay full price for everything. Actually, no, sorry, this is the second time. The second time I didn't have the first time I did have enough money to go, and the second time I didn't have enough money to go, but I knew I needed to be there from going the first time. So I pawned my wedding rings.
Oh my goodness!
My wedding rings. I pawned them to get enough money to travel and go, and no one knows that I didn't. Okay, and they're back. I have them back, but I just believed in it so much that the only thing that I knew that I had of real value was to do that and get the cash in my hand to go. And at that conference, I took a business class for photographers from two very, very doing very well photographers. And they compete, they're in competitions, they win awards, and I learned from people that are rocking it. And I learned that this organization, Professional Photographers of America, have these benchmarks. and they have pie charts on cost of goods sold and how much profit you should be if you're a studio, if you're at home. And from that full day class, I came back and completely reorganized my business before reading that book. Reorganized my business and learned some practices that took me from being like 30K a year photographer to being just under six figures. Like I was making about 80 that year. And then I read the book, and then I went above six. So by pawning those rings, I gathered something that I could never have gotten anywhere else. And it was so worth it. So, and I have them back.
I love this story. I mean, obviously not because you had to pawn your wedding rings, but the cool part about it is that you felt strongly enough about your business and knew the value of educating yourself more from people that have been where you are, and not being afraid to reach out and figure out, this is what I've got to do to make this happen. And you figured out how to do that, and look what it's done for your business. So this is such good, powerful stuff. And not, like I said, not just be, I mean, that's incredible. Like I'm in awe that you sold your pawned your wedding rings. But I get the passion, and that's what I really want people to see, is what a great story that is. I really appreciate you sharing. That's very raw, but it's also very powerful in the respect that people can understand that when you're following what you know to be what you want to do, and you have found that to better yourself, you've got to make some sacrifices, whatever those are, figure them out and move forward with it. I love this stuff. So, tell us, one thing that I always like to ask people is a little bit about superpower. And when I say superpower, there's two things I'm talking about. One is, what's the thing that you're the best in your business about, that you feel like it is it's your jam, you're really good at. And then the second part of that question is, I also feel like your superpower is, what makes you so energized when something happens in your business, like makes the hair on your arm stand up and makes you go, oh my God, this is why I love what I do. So tell us those two things, because I think it's so important for people to understand that that's a feeling, and that's why people keep chasing these dreams.
So I have different genres that I shoot, and I have different feelings about those different genres. So the first is real estate, right? So I shoot a lot of real estate, and when I see an angle a specific way and the light is hitting just right, I get a feeling of like euphoria. Like I go, oh, like
That's exactly what I mean.
Love that feeling. It just really fuels me. But at the same time, I truly care very deeply about showcasing that home so that it can sell faster, because a lot of times those people need to get out of whatever situation they're currently in, and getting another home that they can't afford or they've been dreaming about is on the line with selling this one that's usually contingent on a sale. So helping agents and sellers, because I get booked by sellers directly all the time, get the material they need that I know that I put my heart and soul into, to get the home sold as fast as possible it's a passion of mine. When somebody says, Beth, it went under contract in 4 days, I'm just like, yes, team
Yeah, we did it.
Everybody.
Nice. Very good.
So that makes me happy. I also photograph headshots, and what I've been told by a lot of people is my ability to pull someone's personality out from them. So when you said strengths on your questions, I was like, oh, I know my strengths because I did the Clifton Strengths Tester. And it said that my strength was woo. And I was like, woo. And woo means just the ability to make friends. And one of my strengths is an includer. So I can see the person that's sitting in the room, that's just kind of sitting there. They're the introvert, I'm the extrovert, and it's my job to go over there and help them have fun, right? So it's kind of like meeting people. We're friends really fast. Maybe not real true friends, but fast for me. The ability to create conversation and get to know somebody. So headshots are a passion because I know that I can help them remove that veil of deer and headlights look to real natural expressions and smiles. And I tell jokes, and I like to have a lot of fun with it. And then another one is boudoir. So what I love about boudoir and it's a French term for what ladies' dressing room. So it's still a thing. It's very classy. I don't do anything that would make anybody feel uncomfortable. My whole goal with it, and what I've seen is the transformation that a woman goes through when hair and makeup and the right posing. And as we're going, I show them the pictures of what I see of them on the screen. I actually get a little bit emotional. I'm going to get emotional right now. I get a little bit emotional about it because they are so hard on themselves. I'm hard on myself. You're hard on yourself. Like, they're so hard on themselves. And in this moment, they're just amazing. They're beautiful. There's no flaw that you can see. And it just boosts their confidence. And then they see those pictures on the opposite end. They have something to keep with them always. Like, I go back to my pictures when I was 20 something years old.
Right.
So hot, man. I'm still pretty cute, but 20.
Right.
So, but knowing that they have something to keep with them, to keep that experience with them forever. So whenever they're feeling like not themselves, they can go back to that. I'm like, I am so awesome. So I love that about Fuksa. So
Love it.
That's what
What's the number one question that people ask you when they find out what you do for a living? And I ask this for this exact reason, because what I do for a living is I help entrepreneurs share information about what they know, all of the good nuggets in their head, help them dust them off and realize how much gold they have and how to share it. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that I try to impress upon people is the people that you talk to that know what you do ask you questions. So that's the information that you should be sharing, because that's how you tell your story, not just your story, but also sharing all that good information you have. So one of the reasons I ask this question is for that exact reason. So tapping into what people ask you and what you should be sharing. So tell us, what's the number one thing that people want to know when they know you are a photographer? What do they ask you?
It's usually not first off a question. It's like, oh my gosh, that's got to be so much fun. A lot of times it's, I've been thinking about headshots. What do you recommend that I wear? It's, do you offer hair and makeup? And yes, the answer is yes. But my experience, when I go into what I wear, what do you wear? As I say, I actually will come to your house and do a style consultation with you, because headshots is a marketing of you, and you have to get your head out of you and into marketing mode. So once you're in marketing mode, then you can make better decisions about your brand and your vision. We talk about location. Price is always a big factor, and that comes up often. Usually the very first question is, I'd say, yes, I do headshots. Oh, how much does that cost? Well, there's an explanation behind it, and it's the hair and the makeup and the visit for the wardrobe and how much time are we going to take. So there's more than just, this is the price. It's an experience that you can't get somewhere else. So,
and I love that you've done this, because you clearly tapped into people saying, hey, do you do hair and makeup, and how do you do it? And you've tapped into what people were looking for and evolved your business through that. And so you have an experience that, sets you in a different area than, just any photographer. I mean, there's I don't even know how many photographers are in the country, but let's just say 1,000 in Maryland even. And so you have figured out what you find important to the people that you're photographing, and you're tapped into that. So that's really powerful. I love how you have figured that out and pivoted your business to tap into that stuff. That's really powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So in wrapping up, two things I wanted to ask you, because we're running low on time. Number one, tell me what is the best piece of advice you'd give somebody else that's maybe starting any kind of business, not just a photography, but they're getting ready to jump out. They know, I want to do this or that, but I'm just not sure about certain things. What's the piece of advice you'd give after you've been doing your photography business for however many years? How many years have you been doing your business?
7 professionally, yeah.
I didn't even ask that earlier. I apologize. So what's the number one piece of advice you'd give somebody starting out in any kind of business?
Any kind of business, I would say, don't spend a dime on anything until you have your plan in place. Like, you don't jump forward until you know if it's a product, how the product's going to be marketed, have the marketing plan in place. You don't have to buy anything yet. Don't put up a website yet. Don't jump in and just tell everybody now you're in business and scramble around, or go to networking groups and say, well, I don't have a website yet, but I'm doing business right now. It's just one of those things, like, once you're ready to launch, do the research, get a plan in place, get an idea together, start that process first, and then slowly but surely figure out what you can do you're on your own in order to save money well, and then outsource or seek out somewhere else. So don't quit your full-time job until you're part-time paying the bills.
Yeah, I love this advice. This is fantastic, because a lot of people try to make everything perfect to go get the website set up, get the, in photography world, buy all the expensive stuff that you think you need. And then that's not even the stuff that you necessarily need, because you don't even know what your business is about yet. Get out there and start talking to people and doing it, and then go back and grab, tools as you find that you need them. Yeah. So I wanted to say hi. A couple of people are online talking to us. Mariana, hi, girl. And Michelle came in and he said, looking great, Beth.
I wore makeup today for you.
Well, awesome. Thank you. I think everybody's going through should I wear makeup? Should I do my hair? Am I wearing sweatpants, yoga pants, whatever, under stuff, but it's wonderful. So finally, I wanted to ask you, what would you tell somebody? You're in an elevator full of people and you're stuck there and they ask you what you do for a living. Share with us what Beth Graeme does.
Well, that's where I need help.
Very good. See, this is why we all talk to each other. It's awesome.
It usually creates a conversation. So I say, I'm a photographer. And then they say, well, what kind of things do you photograph? Do you do weddings? It's always, do you do weddings? Like, that's where everybody seems to have their first interaction with a photographer, is the wedding photographer. So, yeah, that's, I'm a photographer, and I have photographed weddings, and I have photographed babies, and I photograph houses and headshots and engagements and special events. Like, where does a camera go? I go there and I photograph. So I volunteer a lot for a lot of nonprofit events. It's just what I do. So I need an elevator speech, something that I can say in 30 seconds. I love alliteration and puns. So some things that I've said in the past are the right exposure means everything, because of the word exposure. Photography is our business for your business, because I do mostly commercial stuff. I used to say something for the alliterations, booties, babies, and abodes. And then I recently thought of houses, headshots, and honeys.
Nice.
I don't have a 30-minute or 30-second elevator pitch. I just say, hello, I'm Beth Graeme, the owner of Beth Graeme Photography, and I focus primarily on headshots and houses. Something important to mention is the certified thing on my arm here. Anyway,
gotcha. What's that?
We'll have to do that the next interview.
Well, give us a quick 30-second on your certified.
I took a test. I passed, and I submitted images that were judged by some judges, and I passed that after a 3-year piece of this. There's around 2,500 in the country and only 5 in Southern Maryland. So
fantastic! Congratulations. That's amazing.
It's a big deal. So
it is. Very good, and certainly a conversation starter as well. So, so guys, if you're listening to us, help Beth out. See, she's reaching out and asking for the thing that she's not good at, which is figuring out how to tell her story in 30-second, 10 words or less. So anybody has some ideas, throw some stuff out there. It'd be awesome to help her. Beth, do us one favor too. How can anybody find you after today if they want to talk to you some more?
Oh, goodness. I have a website. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I've got a YouTube channel. I have a Twitter account that I don't really use Twitter for my business. I'm anywhere and everywhere and readily available to answer any questions. I'm a big believer of community over competition. So I've often helped a lot of local photographers get their foot into the next door.
Love that. Love that. So do us one favor when we're all done, type your website link in the comments below. So that way that anybody who might want to reach out to you, they can click right there on the link. Guys, we are going to, I'm going to save this on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. If you want to go in and make sure you haven't missed anything, you can always go subscribe to my YouTube channel. I will be sharing it again tomorrow with everybody so you can see this interview, and I'll tag Beth in it on my LinkedIn, her LinkedIn, and on my Facebook, and then she's going to be able to share it on her Facebook. So if you missed anything, you want to go back and listen to it, you certainly can do any of that. Beth, I thank you so very much for your time today. This has been so much fun.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, you guys have a great rest of the day. Keep an eye out the rest of the week. We have lots of interviews this weekend, all different types of entrepreneurs with all kinds of stories, sharing all of this good information so we all can feel stronger about our business and get a better hold. So thank you guys so much for being here. And Beth, thanks again.
Thank you.
All right, guys. See you next time.